Welcome, everyone, and thank you for joining us for our very first AFA Talks, the official online webinar series of Albanians for America. This is a space where Albanian Americans can connect, engage, and interact with distinguished guests who have made a meaningful contributions to our community and causes. My name is Doc Vernici. I am one of the founders of Albanians for America, or AFA for short. We are a 501c4 bipartisan organization representing Albanian American interests on Capitol Hill. The mission of AFA is to engage Albanian Americans in the democratic process and to promote Albanian Americans to run for local, state, and federal office. We also work to strengthen Albania-U.S. relations, protect Kosovo's sovereignty, and we seek justice and human rights for all Albanians living in the Balkans. Joining me today as co-host is Elena Senyai, one of our interns here at AFA. She'll be helping to moderate the discussion and coordinate the Q&A session. If you have questions during today's webinar, please use the Q&A feature on Zoom. Elena will invite selected participants to join the panel and ask their question live, or she can read it for you if you prefer. Also, we'd love for you to stay connected with AFA. Please like and follow us on our YouTube channel, Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn, TikTok, and X. And don't forget to visit our website and sign up to become a member. It's only $10 per year. And with your membership, you'll receive a personalized AFA membership card and an Albanian American pin. I think Elena has one she can show you on her camera there. And also a monthly subscription to our newsletter. I'm happy to present our first inaugural guest, Jason Steinbaum. Jason worked on Capitol Hill for more than 3 decades, during which he served as staff director of the House Committee on Foreign Affairs in Washington, for chief of staff of Representative Eliot Engel, Democrat from New York. Previously, he was staff director of the House Subcommittee on Western Hemisphere and worked for Senator Donald Regal, Democrat from Michigan. During his career in Congress, Mr. Steinbaum wrote key legislation affecting U.S. policy, including the Syria Accountability and Lebanese Sovereignty Restoration Act, the Missing in Cyprus Act, and the law providing normal trade relations with Albania. He was a leading staffer on U.S. policy toward the Balkans, having authored several important amendments relating to Kosovo and Serbia, and monitored elections in countries throughout the region. Mr. Steinbaum is currently the president of Chesterbrook Group, an adjunct professor at the American University in Washington, D.C., and a Peace Fellow at the Public and International Law Group. He is also a member of the board of the American University in Kosovo Foundation, RITK. Mr. Steinbaum holds a JD and an MA in Law and International Affairs from the American University in Washington, D.C. He received his BA from the University of Virginia. Mr. Steinbaum is a member of the bars of the states of New Jersey and Pennsylvania. And now you can add to your bio, first guest on AFA. Welcome, Jason.
Well, that's going to lead my list on my bio. Forget all the rest of it. I am the first guest here at AFA. And I got to tell you, most importantly, what you're doing is critical. Organizing Albanian Americans, getting them involved with Congress, the community, your local government, your state government is absolutely critical. For years, there was an organization in Washington, the National Albanian American Council, that folded a while ago, and the absence of them has been felt, or in a vacuum sense. So what you're doing is important and helpful. Please know that all of you being involved is critical, and please stay involved. So thank you for having me as your guest. Thank you for that kind introduction. Yes, I did all those things for most of my career. Worked on the Hill for 30 years at the Foreign Affairs Committee, had the opportunity to travel to Kosovo, bunches of times. I think I'm an honorary Albanian American at this point. So
I think everybody loves you from our community. You're very, very well respected, and the history that you have with our folks goes back for many, many years. And everywhere I went, as I started to become more and more involved, your name kept popping up. So, you have a long history. As a matter of fact, you started to say it, but my first question for you is if you could share your perspective on why it's important for Albanian Americans to remain actively engaged in the American political process and how proper representation at the local, state, federal levels, particularly on Capitol Hill, can benefit the broader interest of the Albanian American community.
The community is able to mobilize Congress. Staying in touch with your members of Congress allows them a basis by which to support Kosovo and the causes that you're coming to them for. Beyond everything else, they are representatives. That's what they are. That's what they are elected to do under our Constitution. They represent you. And how do they get reelected? They get reelected by representing you, by doing the things that you want and you're interested in. So if you come to them and say, hey, I need you to support Kosovo, support recognitions around the world, support the Millennium Challenge Compact, and we can talk, I'd love to talk more about that, and support whatever it is, close relations, close strategic and defense relations. They're going to want to do that, or they're going to want to find a way to do that because that's their job. Their job is to represent you. Without you there, without you reminding them that this is important to you, why should they do it? Why should they do it? They have a million other things to care about. A member of Congress represents like 750,000 people. Why should they do it without you going to talk to them? And frankly, it's okay to be a squeaky wheel. It's good to be a squeaky wheel. Get in their offices, let them know your presence, contribute financially. And I won't, I mean, to Republicans and Democrats, there's nothing partisan about any of this. Be a participant. It's critical. We used to listen to our constituents on this all the time.
Yeah,
And it
go ahead.
made and it gave a basis for their work on this. And if anyone in the press looks at some member of Congress, somebody from Texas saying, why are you writing this letter about Kosovo? The answer is my constituents asked me to. And that is an answer that can't be beat.
It's amazing how approachable these congressmen and senators really are. A lot of times when you're not working in politics or on the Hill in Washington, you look at it like it's something that's difficult to try to be heard or to get your voice heard. And it's really not. It's as simple as going locally first. I find it to be more productive where you live, like our congressman here in our district, who's actually a great champion for Albanian American causes, Congressman Self. We go to his coffees that they have he had one this past Saturday morning. And you can just go and listen, or you can go and ask a question. You can contribute to his campaign if you like. And you don't need to give millions and millions and millions. It can be small amounts, but they like the interaction that people have with them, and it makes a difference. And it's not as something like a huge wall that you have to climb over. It's pretty low burden on approaching them and talking to them and get them getting to know your issues, especially Albanian Americans, because it seems like everywhere that we've been when it comes to Washington, that they have Albanian Americans in their districts. They're very willing to engage for our causes, and they really respect their local populations, whether it's Michigan, Detroit, New Jersey, Connecticut, New York, Florida. They really they have I think a very meaningful contact with the Albanian American community.
Yeah, I think that that's absolutely right. But let me tell you a quick story about how my old boss, Elliot Engel, got involved with Kosovo. He was recently elected in Congress in 1989. I think Thomas Jefferson was president there. I'm not sure. He might have been. It could have been someone else. It was a long time ago. In walks somebody into his office and says, I want to talk to you about Yugoslavia. His name was Harry
Right.
Barktari. Some
Yep.
of you may know Harry. You may be familiar with him, may have heard of him. And that's how Engel first found out about Kosovo. And ever since then, they've been together on it. And today they're best of friends. And they've been best of friends for 35 years or something like that. And Harry's a Republican, Engel's a Democrat, but they are thicker than thieves and as close as can be. But I'll say one other thing, just kind of building off of that. One thing that is very, very important when it comes to policy toward Kosovo is that it be bipartisan.
Correct.
It's absolutely important. And the reason is, first of all, there will be presidents who are Republicans and presidents who are Democrats, and we need to be able to speak to all of them. That's number one. Um, Number two, if it becomes something where one party or another is supporting it and the other one is not, it becomes politicized,
Correct.
and you end up with the kind of involuntary opposition from the other party. So bipartisanship is critical.
Absolutely, 100%. Albanians for America, we are completely bipartisan, not just here in the United States, but even any interaction that we have with Kosovo or Albania or Macedonia or North or Montenegro, we we don't get involved in any of their politics. We don't have a particular, horse in that race. So we stay very bipartisan. It's the issues of Albanian Americans and what affects us here, and then also our relatives and family back home. Let me ask you one question. How
And
concerned?
before we get there,
Go ahead.
I'll just add, every time that we did something on an issue, when Engel was chair of the Foreign Affairs Committee and when he was ranking member, we would turn to our ranking member, that was Mike McCall from
Hmm.
Texas,
Correct. Yeah,
and
we.
we would turn to our chair when he was ranking member, that was Ed Royce of California, and
Mhm.
we would do joint letters to countries, for instance, in the Western Hemisphere, urging them to recognize. But we would always do it together.
Correct. By the way,
And the truth is, what they trusted him. They trusted Engel because they was like, he's not going to put us in a bad position. We stand together on American foreign policy. Sorry, please go ahead.
no, when Congressman Engel left office, all Albanian Americans throughout the country were very, very saddened by that because he was a great, true friend for us, and we have so much respect for him. And Harry really trying to develop that relationship, Harry Baraktari, we can't thank him enough for his efforts to try to, help the Albanian American cause and help the folks back home. I was on the phone with him just last week talking about
Great.
MCC, trying to get a. We'll get to MCC in a minute, but
Sure.
he's. I just want to, you brought him up, and he's really been really a great participant in our organization, helping us out
I'm
as.
glad to hear you're in touch,
Oh,
having
he's great,
being,
great.
but and building those bridges between the Albanian American communities around the country to kind of re-knit the fabric of a national presence is going to be something that will multiply in its benefits for you.
100%. And that's what another main goal of ours is to try to reach out to all the different communities and try to work in collaboration, not to work in competitive nature, but in a collaborative nature and to help each other. Because there are other groups that are moving the ball forward as well with representation on Capitol Hill and Albanian American causes. And the more we, I think, work in unison and help each other out, I think the more success we're going to have. So we'll do that. Let me ask you about how concerned are you on the current stalemate to form a government in Kosovo?
Well, as you know, it's like it's about to change. Well, first of all, you asked me how I'm concerned. I'm concerned because Kosovo's diplomatic presence around the world is has been hurt by the lack of a government and the lack of uh, it, the lack of motion, the lack of an active foreign ministry. Things are frozen. That is bad. Serbia is not frozen. Serbia is active around the world trying to undermine what Kosovo is doing. Kosovo doesn't have the time to waste. It can't. It's like the kid who goes to school uphill both ways. Everything is harder for them because they're not, as you know, they're not in the EU, they're not in NATO, they're not in the United Nations. Not everyone recognizes them. So everything is harder. Can't wait. It should be all hands on deck. I know that it has to be one party or another party or a group of parties that has to run the country, but you have to tap all of they need to tap all of their people with expertise, people with relationships around the world.
Do you think they're going to be able to do it? Or are they going to go to another election, or it's going to go to the Supreme Court? Or what do you
Well, it
think?
is in the court, and the court said it's going to act. Right, the court said it's about to act. Their deadline was, I think, a few days ago, Saturday. So we'll see what they choose to do. Will they order something? I'm not sure. Could they order new elections? Could they order some type of formation? I don't know. We'll see what they feel empowered to do. At this point, this is a situation of first instance, and we haven't seen this happen before. So hard to predict.
It's uncharted territory right now. So, hopefully we all hope, and they all know it, I think, as well back home, that, there's pressure from the citizens, I believe, to try to put something together. And I don't know. I don't know what's going to happen. I don't think anybody knows what's going to happen. So let's just hope for the best.
They had 54 votes for speaker. I think a 55th vote would have done it. Maybe a 56th. I'm kidding. I'm kidding. I'm kidding. I'm kidding.
You never kid, no.
No,
But
I don't joke around.
no,
It's not my way.
the very first meeting we had, all you did was joke around. But look, you just brought up Serbia, and in 2022, you wrote an article for the German Marshall Fund titled "Time for Serbia to Scale Back Military Ties with Russia." You write, since the passage of CAA-TSA, Serbia has considerably increased its imports of heavy weapons from Russia. It's received 6 MiG-29s, 30 T-72, 30 armored vehicles, Panzer S-1 air defense system. In January, a shipment of Kornet anti-tank missiles arrived from Russia. Serbia has also procured 4 MiG-29s from Belarus, which is participating in Putin's war on Ukraine. Its weapons deliveries have gotten so large and important to Moscow that it opened a defense office in Belgrade. The ties between the two countries go beyond weapon shipments. According to Russia's defense minister, Sergei Shoigu, cooperation between Russia and Serbia has become dynamic and multifaceted in recent years. Last year, the Serbian military conducted two military exercises with Russia's armed forces, the Joint Response 2021 exercise in May and Slavic Shield in 2021 in October. You go on to write, Serbia has for several years been drifting away from the West and expanding its political, economic, and security ties with Russia as well as with China. It is time that the United States and the EU take a hard look at their approach, at their accommodating approach toward Belgrade, and show it that there are serious consequences for continuing on this path, including potential sanctions. My question to you is, has the US and EU taken that hard look? And if not, why?
Okay. So we passed that law in 2017. That law came about after the Russians tried to interfere in the elections. And Congress passed a law called the Countering American Adversaries Through Sanctions Act, CATSA, or you said CAASTSA,
Yeah.
CATSA. Section 1 is 231 of that law said countries that engage in substantial transactions with the Russian Ministry of Defense or intelligence or related entities shall face certain sanctions. Period. It didn't have options. It didn't say at the discretion of the president or the secretary of state. It just said shall face sanctions for substantial transactions. Okay. Serbia got, as you read from the paper I wrote, MiG 29s, T 72s, and other significant weapons. The United States did not impose sanctions. This was under the Trump administration after it was passed in 2017. That was a mistake on our part, or at the very least, not to use that law as leverage over Belgrade. This would have given us a fair amount of leverage, and you know that Trump likes to use leverage. He could have done it then. So I think that was a mistake on the United States' part not to do that. The problem is where we are right now is the dynamic for Serbia and the problem for Kosovo is the dynamic may be changing. Why? Following the Russian invasion of Ukraine, as you know, Serbia didn't line up with Western sanctions against Russia. That put it in a bad position initially, but subsequently it started supplying weapons to Ukraine quietly through kind of a gray process, but they had, and they are still supplying them to this day.
Well, I think you
That
use
put
that term where they sit on two chairs at the same time.
that was a quote by the U.S. Deputy Secretary of State, a guy named Hoyt Yee, back in 2017. He said that Serbia can't continue to sit on two chairs at the same time. The U.S. should have carried out the policy that underlay that statement, but we never did because we have consistently allowed Serbia to do that. But the problem today is Serbia, by arming Ukraine, makes itself more valuable to the Europeans and maybe to a lesser extent to the United States. And as long as the Europeans are leading the negotiations with Kosovo, it puts Kosovo in a bad spot, right? So the longer they wait, the worse of a time they get. And what apparently recently happened, according to some reports, is that there was an explosion at an arms factory in Serbia, and the belief is that it was carried out by Russia in response for the weapons that are going to Ukraine. That was meant to put pressure on Serbia, but it may have backfired, and it may have pushed them in even further away from Russia on Ukraine. So it's hard to say how things are going to shake out. But if Serbia makes itself valuable to the Europeans, it can hurt Kosovo in negotiations, especially with non-recognizers.
Do you think, it wasn't too long ago when Putin held his annual parade in Moscow, military parade, and I remember a lot of news out there about Vucic
Mhm,
going to attend that and how the Europeans were not happy about it.
mhm,
I hear these stories about, them not being happy or, they're not happy
mhm.
about some other actions they've taken over the past few years, but it seems like it hasn't moved the needle much in either
Not
direction.
much has, and even the attack on northern Kosovo,
Right.
followed by the movement of tanks and armor by Serbia toward the border.
Right.
So bad that Admiral Kirby, the spokesperson, this is during the Biden administration, the spokesperson for the NSC, had to go to the podium there and warn them, kind of in the same way they warned about Russia before it attacked Ukraine. So
Correct.
they saw this happening, and they called it out. Fortunately, nothing ever happened, and we moved ahead with a sale of Javelin anti-tank weapons to Kosovo. That was a very, very good move because what does Serbia have in the end? They've got tanks.
Right. That
Kosovo,
shipment still not has been delivered. It's been 5 years, and
mhm,
a lot of it due to the Ukraine war. And my
correct.
understanding is that it's a 7 year process right now. So in 2 more years, they should be receiving their javelins in Kosovo. But if the war's continuing in Ukraine at the time, they might get pushed back again if they have to be diverted toward Ukraine because that's their priority currently. Is Ukraine.
Yeah, but let me hit one other point on this. American diplomacy on Kosovo has gotten worse.
Hmm.
It got worse. Maybe it started during the late Trump administration, but it got worse during the Biden administration.
Correct.
And it got worse because we were considering every issue that related to the Serbs in northern Kosovo as an issue that should go into the dialogue, the negotiations between Serbia and Kosovo. The problem with that is, I mean, everyone wants negotiations and everyone wants things solved through dialogue, not war, of
Right.
course. But what happens in Kosovo's north is a domestic issue for Kosovo.
Correct.
It is not an international issue, and Serbia should have no role in deciding what happens. They should have no veto over that. But the problem is, we in the United States and during the Biden administration went down that path and went down that path really hard. And it was a big, big error. And that's what I'm hoping this administration will walk back. Trump administration's been in for over 6 months. I don't think they have a policy yet.
I don't think so. And then you and I, we talked a little bit about it before, the fact that he mentioned how he stopped a war with Kosovo and Serbia, 3 or 4 times in the past month or so. And but we don't really know where that comes from or what that means necessarily. But maybe he was talking about the past. We're not sure. But later on, if we have time, I was thinking about getting into the ASMM, but we'll
Sure.
see after that. But first, I have a question. I want you to tell our audience about your summer trip to Kosovo and Albania regarding RIT, Rochester Institute of Technology, and please give them a little history and a little bit of what you think the future is for RIT.
Absolutely. I hope everyone knows what RITK is. You know what it is? It's what we used to call the American University of Kosovo. We used to call it that, but it got into some kind of like intellectual property name game because there was another one in like Kuwait or something like that. So, fortunately for them, they had a large and good American school that wanted then AUK to become one of their campuses abroad. And that was the Rochester Institute of Technology in Rochester, New York. An excellent school for people who are looking to be engineers or deal with technology, something I have no idea what that all means. I I'm very good when I can add 2 plus 2. I can do that in front of you. I can do that even when you're not here, and I can impress you with that. But so the school is now part of Rochester Institute of Technology, and that's RITK. It started 20 years ago just as an idea of a bunch of people to establish an institution teaching in English. And that's how it got going. And through the years, it has grown. It got a very large donation from former Foreign Minister Putsoli, which helped build their main campus building. And today, it's arguably the best university in Kosovo. There are 700 students. They're hopefully on their way up to about 1,000. Um, so they're not only the best university in Kosovo, I think, um, but they're the only one that awards American degrees. They award Rochester Institute of Technology degrees, which have full American accreditation. So they carry that cachet, and graduates carry that cachet wherever they go. So it's an excellent place. I encourage you to visit if you ever go. And if you haven't contributed yet, give it some thought because it's worth it when you look up and down the leadership ranks in Kosovo across different sectors, you find graduates. And this isn't the University of Pristina, which has thousands and thousands of students. This is a small place, but they've achieved excellence.
And you're serving on their board of directors?
I am a member of the board of directors of the school.
Okay.
Yes. And we I can tell you a little bit more about what that is. But you know what a board does. We
Yeah.
determine policy for the university. And the other thing that we've done recently is we are about to have first classes in another campus, which we are now opening in Tirana.
That's
So
great.
there's now an RITT, Rochester Institute of Technology, Tirana, which is linked with us. So we're growing. and we're expanding our reach and trying to deliver the types of education that Albanians across the region and others, and not just Albanians. By the way, the uh, number one graduate at RITK this year was a Kosovar Bosniak,
Oh, that's great.
and it says something about the multi-ethnic character of the state.
That's wonderful. I'm glad to hear that.
Yep.
It's such an important, endeavor to try to get the education to a level of, higher, raise it as much as possible. During my research, I found that you played a large role in the Millennium Challenge Corporation (MCC) grants for Kosovo. Kosovo was not eligible for the grant because of its legal standing in the United Nations, and I believe you came up with a solution to have the UN office in Kosovo produce needed data and not rely on the agency headquarters in New York. You basically wouldn't accept no for an answer. Do I have that correct? And can you explain
Yep.
to the audience a little bit about MCC and where it stands today and what something like our organization can possibly help to, or getting people involved with Capitol Hill help to move something like this forward?
Yes. I will let me please let me do that. The Millennium Challenge Corporation was an alternative foreign assistance program set up under the administration of George W. Bush. And it was an excellent idea and an excellent program and very innovative. How was it different from the regular foreign assistance that we give? Right? Foreign assistance is often seen as a country, as the United States decides we want to help this group or this country, so we're going to give some money or provide some services. Well, that's not how MCC works. MCC was not set up to deal with humanitarian affairs in that way or development or American interests in that way. It was set up to allow countries essentially to compete for assistance. And they competed not based on what the American government, how the American government would review their applications, but based on how institutions, private, some public, some international and multinational institutions around the world would score them for their policies and their activities. So the MCC set up what they called a scorecard, and every country around the world got one. And under the scorecard, scores were assigned by some UN groups, World Bank, the Heritage Organization, and a variety of other groups. When Kosovo was established, it wasn't a member of the UN and the WHO and the World Health Organization and a number of the other UN member organizations. It wasn't even a member of the World Bank and the IMF, which also scored things at the time. They're now members of the World Bank and IMF. What did that mean? The scorecard, when you look at it, and I encourage you to go look at the scorecards and you'll see what it looks like. If you go to the Millennium Challenge account or mcc.gov, you'll look up Kosovo scorecard. You'll see that things show up in green or red. Green means you passed that particular indicator. Red means, yes, you figured it out, they failed it. Okay. So what happened for Kosovo was that all of these UN groups weren't supplying scores because Kosovo wasn't a member of the UN. And the World Bank didn't supply a score because it wasn't a member of the World Bank and the IMF too. So it was not getting scores, and their scorecard showed up in red. It was red, 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 and they couldn't even compete. And when you boiled it down, the reason they could not compete for an American foreign assistance program was because they weren't recognized by Russia and Serbia and China. And that's what was blocking an American foreign assistance program and keeping Kosovo out. And I found that, pick your curse word, outrageous, right? I thought it was freaking awful. And I rode them so hard, just, and it took a number of years. It took a number of years
This is
Uh,
why you were with Elliot Engel's office or on the
I was
committee?
on I was on the committee staff then. I moved to the committee in like 2006, and this was after Kosovo became independent.
Okay.
Okay, so I was on committee staff then, but I was working for Elliot because he was the chairman of first the Western Hemisphere subcommittee and then ranking or chair on the full committee.
Okay.
So it was I was working for Elliot then. And what happened and the way it got worked out was this goes back to the Obama administration. And one of my friends who used to work on the Hill and did foreign assistance and had left the Hill went over to the MCC and became like vice president for one of the key factors over there. And she and I sat down and we came up with this. I think they were just sick of hearing from me, and they did it just to like shut me up. Um, he stuffed a sock in my mouth and said, here's how we'll do it. So what ended up happening after that was we came up with this system whereby not the UN organization, but just their offices on the ground in Pristina would come up with scores. They wouldn't be scores for the Republic of Kosovo, but they would be scores for Kosovo. Fine, we took the scores, and what happened was they passed, and they passed this one and that one, and because we knew it would. We knew they were doing the job to do it as long as they could compete. All they wanted to do was compete. And when they could compete, they achieved. First, they got what they called a threshold, and um, a threshold project by which they got several tens of millions of dollars, mostly for energy. And then they were awarded what's called a compact. A compact is how MCC gives its assistance. And that big compact turned out to be over $200 million.
Huge, significant.
As you may know, the Trump administration has been taking apart USAID. They also took apart MCC, the Millennium Challenge Corporation. And Kosovo has lost $200 million of a compact which was going to energy. By the way, a Texas company was going to compete
Right.
for a large part of that. One that does batteries and things like that, big industrial size batteries to help stability in their energy system. Okay. What we're trying to do now is hopefully work up a bipartisan letter to the administration saying, please, we know that you're doing this policy, but can you please revive this? This is good for the region, it's good for Kosovo, and it's good for American interests in the region. We're working on that now. The support of AFA has been vital in this process. So thank you, Doc, and others.
No, we're true. I mean, this is what we're here for, trying to move things like that along. Alana, now I think we've been talking for quite a bit of time, and we're going to take some questions. I don't know if Harry Baraktari is still on here because he's been working on MCC with us as well. Is he still on, Alana, over here, or does he have a question for us?
I'm not sure.
Harry, you
He
still
was
here?
on earlier. I'm not sure if he is. If he is, that would be great. If he could raise his hand, but
Do you
he
have
was on earlier.
do you have
But
any
I, yes, I do. Elena Kolitz, she is on right now, so I'm gonna give
Harry,
her.
that's my hand waving at you. If you're there.
Awesome. I did see Jakub Azemi. Jakub, if you could send me a Q&A question, it's like on the bottom, and you could go next. But I do have one question for Elena, so I'm gonna give you the opportunity to talk right now.
Hi, Elena, can
Hi.
you hear us?
Yes, I can hear you. First off, thank you so much for taking my question. Just to introduce myself quickly, I'm a rising junior at George Washington University studying international affairs, and I'm very interested in the Balkans. I've interned with the Albanian Embassy in DC, and I'm now interning in Kosovo with the Yahyaga Foundation, which has been
Oh,
really,
wow.
yeah.
That's
But
wonderful.
yeah, it's been amazing so far. But I just had a quick question earlier on when you were talking about how Serbia kind of playing the sides of the East and the West would undermine negotiations for Kosovo. I was just curious, in what way does it undermine those negotiations exactly?
Because as you know, the EU um, is leading those negotiations. They even have sanctions against Kosovo right now, like a $600 million sanction where they're withholding $600 million of assistance. As long
Oh,
as they have some sense of gratitude gratitude toward Serbia, the sense that it's invaluable, why should they lift sanctions against Kosovo? Because it could push Serbia in the other direction.
okay. See, yeah,
So,
sorry,
yeah,
I
please.
didn't even know that they had sanctions on them. I don't know how I didn't know that. But so the only
That's
reason
okay.
they have those sanctions is just to keep Serbia happy, or as far as
Well,
like,
initially, what they were doing was they were penalizing Kosovo for some of the policies that it was carrying out in the north.
mm,
They started getting angry at Kosovo because it was implementing the constitutional provision saying that the euro is its currency. They were closing Serbian banks there. These are
mhm.
all things that were under Kosovar law, but they thought that Kosovo shouldn't carry out its policies and execute its laws within its territory, but it should negotiate it with Serbia. And that's been a policy the United States followed as well. And it failed. It did not move the process forward. Serbia dug in further,
Mhm.
and we are where we are. And it's stuck. I'll make one other little comment. I was in Kosovo in like 2015. I and President Yayaga actually awarded me um, a medal for what I did on the Millennium Challenge Corporation, and it was and it turned out that it was covered in one of the Capitol Hill newspapers, but it ended up getting covered in like the one of the news things from my university. I went to the University of Virginia, and the reason they covered it was because it turned out that not only did I go there, but Yayaga went there. She went there for a criminal justice program while she was in the police. So they're
Wow.
like, two UVA grads combined to do good work. And by the way, enjoy the Elliott School there at GW. It's great.
Okay, thank you so much for your answer. That was really helpful.
Thanks,
You're
Elena.
welcome.
Proud of you. Keep up the good work.
Thank you.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Elena, for coming on and asking your question. We now have our next question, which is from Gino Mulici, and I will give him the floor. Some second.
If things were going great till now,
Awesome. Okay.
now we got to deal with Gino.
Jason, you know that they cannot unmute me forever. Just they can't put baby on the corner. Jason, thanks for being here. Really appreciate your time and the effort and everything you've done. You and some of the pillars of our community and what you guys have done to set the stage up and to help during the 90s and 2000s and even, mid 2000 teens. It's been tremendous and it's the guidance for all of us on how to go about it. I come from a different background in terms of how do the relationships work in how, obviously Kosovo and Albanians with US have a bond, unbreakable bond in the sense of the word, right? But what is the main thing I think that will last forever is the economic strength between Kosovo or Albania, Kosovo Albanians, Albanians overall in the Balkans and the United States. Geographically, we're far from trade perspective, but I think in terms of developing economically is the main goal that our government currently and further down the road should have uh, in order for our strength to be there forever. How do you see that going? How do you see that being built up? What should our governments back home, Albania, Kosovo, do more of? And how do they attract more investments from businesses from the United States? Because at the very least, imagine if we had a Tesla represented in Kosovo. We wouldn't have much to do with advocacy per se in Washington, because that would have been done by, third-party investment companies that are investing and they're protecting their investments in Kosovo. And I think that is the biggest security part of us. So if you can elaborate on that, how can we as Albanian Americans help, how AFA can help, how organizations like AFL can help, and how individuals by itself can help on attracting investments in Kosovo, in Albania, and then having products shipped from back home here. Sorry, I went a little long, and obviously Doc hates that, but it's okay.
Right. I mean, as you know, Kosovo is a small market, right? This is not a big country. What do we have? 1.8 million people, in the place the size of Connecticut.
The size of Collin County here, where we live.
Okay.
And
Yeah. So this is not a big marketplace. To attract some of the big firms in the United States, it should join with its neighbors, and it should work on building regional blocks, regional hubs, so that they can increase the size of their market power, and help with distribution, help with messaging, help with marketing. That would be the main way I think that they can work together. So if Kosovo gets with Albania, gets with North Macedonia, and they start working together on these things, they'll be able to create a much, much larger market. And you're starting to talk about near 10 million people now. And that's something that's much harder to ignore.
yeah, and
For
and
you,
and where I want to get to, Jason, I guess, is I just came back. Is Visit Croatia has been everywhere, every damn where, everywhere. And Croatia's population is a little bit bigger than us, but not much in terms of geographically, not much bigger than Kosovo. But yes, they have beautiful beaches and whatnot. You cannot compare that. But the messaging of itself has become such a part of their identity that I feel like our governments and our folks, and even us as Albanian Americans, don't have that identity or that messaging being sent that investments can follow through.
absolutely. Tell the story. Introduce yourselves to people so that when people say Kosovo, they don't, you would either get, huh, where, or is it safe? Right? Those are the two questions that you'd end up getting. So you're absolutely right. Tell the story. Start saying why the country is beautiful, why the market is strong, why the people are intelligent and entrepreneurial, and why it's a place we should do business. I think it would be an excellent outreach campaign.
Thank you, Gino. Alana, you have another question?
Yes, I do. Our next question is from Jakub. So thank you so much, Gino, for your questions. Awesome. So the floor is yours. 1 second. Oh, there we go. Awesome.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Mr. Steinbaum. I'm delighted to participate in this event, this talk. I'm calling from London. We have recently established a group. We have called ourselves the Kosovo Group. And when I saw your events in one of the emails, I immediately signed up. I wanted to attend it and see what you have to say. And hopefully I can get some hints as how we can coordinate our activities, and maybe you can give us some ideas as how we can influence British politics vis-a-vis Kosovo. But first, my principal question is there any scope for the Albanian Americans and Kosovo diplomacy, in fact, to re-energize our activity with the American foreign policy to somehow influence the EU to first catapult the EU to recognize the remaining 5 countries to recognize the independence of Kosovo, and B, to somehow tell the Europeans, yeah, they need to embrace Kosovo and Albanians a bit more empathically rather than they have been doing so far. There is a sense of negligence from the side of the EU vis-a-vis Kosovo and vis-a-vis Albanians. And there seems to me some residues of the past are popping up still in Europe. And I believe there's a general perception among the Albanians that unless the US remains active in sort of catapulting Europe in the right direction, we may be set for a long time to suffer still, because we see, you know, how many years since the independence of Kosovo, or since 1999, 25, 26 years, and there's not much, you know. The EU, you spoke eloquently earlier about those measures. They call it measures, but they are sanctions, and so on and so forth. So what is your observation on this? Thank you.
Okay, sure. Thank you. Thanks for the question. First of all, I think it's great that you have formed your own organization. That's an incredibly important step forward. I would encourage you to have your members talk to their members of parliament. The members of parliament in the UK represent about something along the lines of 10% of what a member of the House of Representatives in the US represent. So I would first of all encourage your members to go talk to their members of parliament and introduce them, tell them why this is important, tell them why this is important to you as a constituent. And then on your point of trying to change the policies of the EU, well, it's a little harder to do that in the UK after Brexit, of course. But having them talk to their fellow parliamentarians across Europe, because there are more sessions than you can count where parliamentarians get together and they talk to each other, and they work out joint policies. So if you can find a way to have your parliamentarians go talk to the others across Europe and say, you know, it's time to change this. And the reason it's time to change this is because we can't have a continued unsettled conflict in the heart of Europe. We can't let this continue. And the only way we're going to solve this is if Kosovo is independent, Serbia is independent, and they recognize each other, or at the very least, Kosovo moves on to join NATO and is given a real pathway like its neighbors toward the EU. So I would encourage you to do those things and reach out to your members of parliament, like the AFA is doing here with the members of the House and Senate.
Thank you.
I would just add, Yakub, you know, focus on local, you know, wherever your members live, that town, that district, that region, focus on the local folks there and then work your way up. But always on the local is where you want to start. And it makes the biggest impact. And you just don't know where that individual that you're working with locally will end up in the government and how much they can contribute to helping, you know, your cause and what you guys are organizing for. So thank you for your question. I really
May I add to that, Doc,
ahead.
just on
Yes, sir.
one quick point. As you do all these things, make the importance of having young people involved. So I'm so happy. I was so happy to see Elena on here, having to see another a question come from another student doing foreign policy in DC at a major university. I think that's fantastic, because if we don't do that, the interest in the community will evaporate, and the activity and and the ability to generate political power will evaporate. So please make sure young people are involved. As you know, after independence, Albanian Americans, Kosovo Americans thought, we did it. We're there. Finally, we can rest. And the answer was no. The battle continues. It's now political. It's not, a warfare. But you got to keep pushing and staying involved, because if not, Serbia is going to.
Yeah.
And recognitions will evaporate, and people will forget. They'll forget the horrors. They'll forget the ethnic cleansing, and the ability to regenerate interest and to regenerate the types of political positions you want will become harder every day. So please, it's so good to see more young people involved. Keep them involved and teach them.
That's great advice, Jason. That's focusing on the youth and trying to develop them. That's so important. And we've really been trying to, I mean, you see the energy within them, and they're so smart and young and brilliant, and I mean, to cultivate that just adds to anything that we're trying to do. So we're definitely there as well. Alana, are we getting close, I think, to time? Did you have a question or is there any other questions out there?
There's a couple more questions if you have maybe a little bit more
Jason,
time.
you got a little more time for us?
Sure.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much, Jakub, for your question. Our next question is from Rowan Jaro. So I'm going to give you the permission to speak. Just 1 second. Awesome. You should have the ability now.
Can you hear us?
Hello,
Yeah.
Rowan.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
You betcha.
Okay. All right. Hello, I'm Rowan. I am a national of Albania, so technically not your constituency, Mr. Steinbaum, but I will be studying at RITK this coming fall. So I am part of your constituency in another way.
Love
My
that.
question regarding Kosovo, my question regarding Kosovo is, as growing in Albania, I grew up in Albania, so I as part of the community there, a dream always was to after Kosovo got its independence, the dream of Albanians is that we put the border down, join with our brothers, and then continue living within the same community. That hasn't happened, and doesn't seem like it's going to happen because Kosovo, the way it got in its independence, it was guaranteeing that it wouldn't be part of Albania. Right now, where I see the situation and how people feel in Kosovo and Albania, it feels like we're in a stagnant stage of we're not continuing any forward, but we're not moving back. But we want to continue forward. The problem is when we try to continue forward with reunification or trying to build bridges, Serbia involves itself in the relationships that we're trying to build. Do you think that's something where Western civilizations need to be more involved and try to mediate between two nations when Albania and Kosovo is trying to bring the borders down and try to create a stronger connection, maybe have Kosovo part of itself or some sort of a unification? Do you think that's even possible? Do you think that with the support of the US and the Western civilizations of Europe, do you think that's even in the realm of possibilities, or do you think that's not something that we can look forward to?
First of all, best of luck at RITK. I hope you enjoy it. I think you will. I think you'll have a great experience. I think you'll learn a lot. So best of luck there. on the question of unification, respectfully, I don't think that's a good idea on a number of grounds. First of all, when it comes to the international community, as you hear over and over, no longer wants to move borders in the Balkans. So, and that deals with Bosnia, that deals with Serbia and Kosovo, and frankly, it deals with all the countries in the region. Imagine what could happen in North Macedonia if we start moving borders. It can be really messy. But even to say it another way, I agree and am sympathetic on the questions of bringing down the borders in sort of the way the EU has, so that people can flow back and forth and be with their friends and family across borders. That's great and that's wonderful. Allow the trade to flourish between the countries and throughout the region, and that would pretty much solve your problem. But or the issue that you raised. But let me say it a different way. You see the way politics is in Albania now, and you see the way it is in Kosovo now. Take that, put them together. How happy would that situation be?
Not
Anyway,
great.
I don't know. My gut is that it would it
No, the
would be like
problem, the
exponentially
question,
worse.
the question is not making more borders. The question is bringing them down.
Yeah.
But the border is there to protect. Like, we need a border between Kosovo and Serbia. We just don't need a border between Serbia, or sorry, and between Kosovo and Albania, because Serbia might invade Kosovo tomorrow, but Albania wants to prosper with Kosovars.
Right.
That's the whole, like, when you have like these types of situations, I think that's when you need Western civilizations to have the situation like more under control.
I think there's ways, and there are models that Albania and Kosovo and North Macedonia and Montenegro they can look at, and hopefully and do the same, and add Croatia and add Slovenia, and allow the borders to slowly come down. Countries will retain their independence, and and the pride that comes with that, and the territorial integrity that comes with that. But at the same time, um, allow people to go back and forth, to spend time with their family, allow trade to flow, allow cultures to move across the region so people can experience that and enjoy it. So big picture, I agree with you on that.
Thank you, Rowan. We're running short on time. I do see Harry's back on, and he's got his hand up.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Ron, for your question. And thank you, Jason, for your input. And awesome. All right, Harry, I will be bringing you back on right now. 1 second.
Hey, Harry B.
You guys hear me?
Yes, sir.
Yes, I do.
Great. I want to thank both of you. Jason, thank you for all the great work you've done and you do. And thank you for being part of the AUK and visiting the region. And Doc, thank you for putting it together. I think this is very, very good. Very good. I commend both of you. And Jason, thank you again for those kind words, both of you. You guys said some good things about me and I left.
That's because we read your books.
You're supposed to stick around when we say good things.
Harry, I miss you. We haven't talked for a bit. I got to give you a buzz.
I know. We got to catch up. I just want to add on unification. I think Kosovo needs to be part of NATO. I think we should become economically and politically strong. I mean, why give up 2 votes in NATO, Europe, United Nations in the future? I think at roundtables anywhere in institutions, we have 2 votes. I think it's a wonderful thing, in my opinion. And the border between Kosovo and Albania, there should be no border. It should be like New York and New Jersey or Texas and Oklahoma or whatever it is. And that's the end of it. My opinion.
I meant to say that too. Imagine this is like political power for you in the international community. Why give up 2 votes and just take one?
Why would you do that? And Congressman Engel, when he was chairman of the committee in 2019, he has a road that the ceremony was done at the border between Albania and Kosovo. After 70 years, his road unifies the country. Just disappear, take out the border. There's no border. I think Albania and Kosovo, they don't need a border between both of the countries.
Harry, I remember that ceremony, and I remember the ceremony in Peja.
Yeah.
When they named the road after him, coming right off the main square. Never forget that.
Yeah, he was on the phone earlier. That's why I went out. Was talking to him and everything else.
Really?
And yeah, he's he's a great guy. Great guy. God bless him, and God bless you guys. God bless you guys.
Hey, Harry,
what a great surprise to see you here today. Hey, thanks for coming
Harry,
on board.
thanks for everything you've done too. You're on the phone with me calling about that MCC letter. You're working with Congressman Torres right now in his office trying to get something done to where hopefully we can have an impact and the Albanian American community can have an impact about getting MCC back on track with this administration. That's what our hopes are. So thank you for your work.
I agree. And look, I think our community will do more if our folks back home in Albania or Kosovo, they get their act together. I think this is unacceptable. What's going on in Kosovo? I think it's unacceptable in Albania. It's become a one-party system country. They need to come together and get their work done that the people elected them. And I think if they do their job back home, I think we could be more helpful up here, my opinion.
I agree with that. And I'm going to say it in another way. Right now, Kosovo doesn't have any lobbyists in DC. And the embassy is they work very hard, but they're small. And it limits their effectiveness. So in many ways, there's sort of three legs to the stool of political pressure in Washington. One is the community, and it's you guys, and you're working to reestablish a strong presence now, and that's good. But the other two legs of that stool are a lobbying presence and a very strong diplomatic presence. Those are areas where, as Harry was just saying, the government, as it hopefully soon will get its act together, will be able to move ahead with things like that. So you put those three things together, and suddenly the political pressure and the political power of the community and the countries can be exerted.
And they got to get their act together that the people have elected them. If they get their act together, the community will get energized because they feel, empowered to do stuff. But sometimes we get depressed because we think they don't care, and they don't care because they can't put their personal differences to get the country going. It's a sad thing. Sad thing, my opinion.
Agreed. Thank you, Harry.
All right, guys. God bless you.
Thanks
Good night.
for joining us.
God bless. God bless.
Thank you, sir. Elena, is there one more quick question we can take, or should we call it a night?
There are a couple more questions, but yeah, thank you so much, Harry, for your questions and input. It was great hearing you talk. Thank you so much. We have about 3 more questions. So if that's okay, but if not, we can just take one. But yeah.
Let's go ahead with this one. Is if they can just ask the question quickly, then maybe we can get to the other two as well.
Yeah, Anita asked the question. She just wanted me to read it out for her.
Sure.
So she said, what is your opinion on the new U.S. administration who has not yet presented a comprehensive policy framework for Kosovo? There have been statements suggesting a commitment to supporting peace and preventing renewed tensions between Kosovo and Serbia. In the absence of a detailed plan, what practical steps or diplomatic efforts are currently being considered to promote long-term stability in the region? She also wanted to add that it is from your favorite Kosovar coffee shop in Fredericksburg, Virginia.
Oh my gosh. Hey, is that Anita?
Yes, it is Anita Crossfield.
That's from Anita. Yes, it's Anita's Cafe in Fredericksburg, Virginia. where both of my sons went to college at the University of Mary Washington, a state school in Virginia. And for all of you on this call, I know you're like, I'm from Texas, it's too big, I don't need to go anywhere. Fredericksburg's great. Beautiful little town, amazing history. Learn about the Civil War battle that took place there 170 years ago, and you'll enjoy. And then when you're done, head out to Anita's Cafe, grab yourself a cappuccino. I would say get a macchiato, but I think you're only allowed to do that in Kosovo. So you'll figure that out later. But
They got baklava or no?
Anita, you there?
She just
Answer
read
the
the
full
questions
question.
for her.
I read it for her. I can put her on if she'd like, but I'll put her on and if she wants to respond.
Let me just say this: she's got some kick-ass pastries there. I mean, some really, really kick-ass pastries. There it is, Anita's Cafe. What a surprise!
Hey, hi there.
Look at this. This is like what an amazing surprise.
Well, I have been waiting for this. I was so excited to hear you talk, and I'm a huge advocate here and for Kosovar people here in Fredericksburg, Virginia. And my little cafe has become a staple of really downtown Fredericksburg, and talking and expressing all the goods of how I feel about the community here, also representing Kosovo and our history and our communities and our people here. We just had a book signing with Ambassador William Walker here. We have about almost 200 people participating, and 90% of those people were Americans from this region, from this small city. And that is because you're out there talking about Kosovo. I'm out there talking about my people and our history and the differences you guys have made for us. So it is a great history. It's a great story that we share. And the world is so small, and I want the young people to know this. It is so small in different ways. You might think that, we would not make a difference, but trust me, if I made a difference as an immigrant in this little community, even nobody knows about it, um, you all can. With very less education, I came from Kosovo and continue my education here as a single mother. I raised my daughter, educated her. She now works at the parliament. And I took a note when you said that Kosovo does not have any lobbyists in our parliament here. Well, that's what my daughter does. So and it pinch that there. So thank you so much for having these talks and these events and including our young generation. Um, it is now it now is the best timing to talk about our history and what we need to show and tell the world, because now we need more recognition more than ever so we can move forward.
Anita, I was at your place like about 3 weeks ago. You weren't there. I was there with my son, Max. We saw the pictures on the
Yes.
wall. You see, she has saw the pictures up on her wall in the cafe.
Okay.
It's great.
Yeah.
Thank you. That's and I call that a history wall. So, and then there are pictures of Kosovo leaders, places in Kosovo. They're a historical wall that community gets to see and learn about where I come from.
Bravo, Anita. Thank you. Thank you for being a great patriot like that. It's very, very, very encouraging for us. Thank you.
And let me tell you, his son is very active in the community, very engaged. He's young and he's out there in every gathering, we just went into the Democratic gathering that we had the other day, and guess who was there? It was your son. I see him everywhere. He's so involved. He is so all about the environment. He is all about the environment.
I am calling him as soon as we're off this thing. I am calling him.
I said hi.
I can't believe this is great. I've seen Harry. I saw Anita. I know Aphrodita's on the call. It's wonderful.
Jason, it sounds
Forget
like
all the things I've talked about. I got to see all my friends.
it sounds like the fruit doesn't fall far from the tree with your son there, following in your footsteps, huh?
Oh,
Listen,
he's in the front line, let me tell you. A great student and great advocate for the young people here in our region.
That's wonderful. Thank you, Anita. And we're getting really close now. So, Alana, maybe if we could take one more question and then make it real quick, please.
Yeah, of course. There's two last questions, so I can kind of like jumble them together. Thank you so much, Anita. It was great like hearing your question, and I'm glad you guys found a little common connection. That's amazing.
Thank you.
But yeah, our next two questions are one is from Istref Montgomery. So I'm gonna say his question and then I'll ask the next person's question. So Istref's question is, because of the Russia-Ukrainian war and geopolitical shifts, how can Kosovo afford a status quo regarding forming the government? Without a formed government, no matter the amount of help from outside Kosovo cannot move forward. It is in Serbia's interests every day for the status quo in Kosovo to continue. So should the people of Kosovo put more pressure on their parties to form a government?
Yes, keep going.
That
Yeah, absolutely. You can't wait. No treading water, no stalling, no delaying. Every day, Serbia's there working its tail off.
Awesome. Yeah, I totally agree. And our next question is from Mark Cosmo. He said, you mentioned the National Albanian American Council. He was a board member for a few years. And based on your experience, are there other organizations in DC that you would consider to be good role models for the Albanian community to follow vis-a-vis increasing and exercising more influence?
That's it's a big question. I'm sorry, I'll try to go really fast. And when NAC was established, they looked around for models. One of the ones they looked at was AIPAC in the Jewish community and the pro-Israel community. And it was one of the ways they used as a model. But another thing that you guys can do, and I may have mentioned this to Docker, I don't remember if I had or not. Another thing that takes place, I'm Jewish, so whatever. In the Jewish community, they do is there's a thing called the Council of Presidents. The Council of Presidents has the presidents of a number of all of the major Jewish organizations where they sit around and they help set the big 100,000 foot questions of policy for the community. And since there are a number of Albanian American organizations, it's possible that that could be a model that suits you.
Yeah, you mentioned that last time we had lunch together in DC, and I found that intriguing, because there are several groups, and we are collaborating, many of us, and possibly it might be a good idea to maybe for some of these groups to get together and pursue that idea. But I like the way that sounds, and it might be an effective route for a future, umbrella type of like you said, 100,000 foot look down, give some basic, and everybody focuses. I think each group focusing on their local and state politics, and it going upstream from there.
Yeah,
It
and there's some
makes a
groups that
big
do
difference.
cultural affairs, some that do historical
Right.
affairs, right? And they can have some level of purview over their own interests and those types of things. And the others will, follow their lead, and they'll follow your lead on other things, right? And so that's kind of a way to do it. And you all can kind of help disseminate messaging and policy throughout the community nationwide. There you go. Look to you guys. I'm just honorary.
Well, thank you, Jason, for joining us and being our first guest on AFA Talks. I and the Albanian people cannot thank you enough for all your contributions, time, efforts, and sacrifices you have made in your personal life to help all Albanian people throughout the world during very difficult times. I'm sure I speak for all Albanian Americans and Albanians throughout the world when I say thank you, and I wish you and your family happiness, peace, and prosperity. And we hope you can join us again in the future.
Thank you so much for having me. Congratulations to AFA on your great work. Everyone have a wonderful night. And you managed to stay on here for an hour and something. I hope I didn't put you to sleep, but thank you so much for having me as your first guest.
Thank you. We broke a record. And thank you to our audience for your participation on our first webinar. And join us again for our next show, August 19th, same time, when we have two Albanian Americans running for the United States Congress as guests, Robert Luljurai from Michigan and Diamant Hussenai from New York. In September, we have Murat Muftari as our host for AFA Talks with a special guest, Alexander Arizu, former ambassador to Albania. I butchered that last name, excuse me on that. And then please email us at albaniansforamerica.org and send us suggestions for future guests and any questions you have. And thank you for joining us.
Thank you